Well, welcome everybody to Don Cherry's Grapevine podcast. I'm here with Dad and Cindy. Dell's at the controls. I'm Tim, and Dad, we got something new.
Yeah, we have something new. You know, Tim, I talked to the Painter brothers, Daryl and Chris and his dad, and you know, I know the restaurants are having a tough time, and I made a suggestion to Chris, and so we're going to talk about it. We have. By the way, they call them restaurant Don Cherry Sports Grill now, right?
Right.
Let me tell you a story. So I had a partner a long time ago, and he came to me and he said, "Don,
just the original name of the bars
was Don Cherry's restaurant.
No,
yeah.
Grapevine.
Oh, Grapevine.
Grapevine restaurant.
Yeah, Grapevine restaurants. So anyhow, this was the Don Cherry's Grapevine restaurants. That was the name we started with a long time ago. Hamilton, right?
Yep.
Hamilton, boy,
on Main Street.
On Main Street, what a place that was! Holy smokes! We started out. I remember we started. I had a partner called Jerry Patterson, great guy, and he was like my agent. Gord, I forget. Do you remember the last?
Gord Badger.
Gord Badger, yeah. So we went out. We went this place, went that place, went that place. We never found a place that. So then we go to Hamilton, and I walked in. I knew it was perfect. It just looked like a Boston bar, and Boston.
It was on Main and Walnut, and it used to be a seafood restaurant.
Yeah, and they left, and when they left, they just left everything. Bing, gone. Like the day they walked out.
Yeah, it looked like The Walking Dead. You know what I mean? Like there was actually soup bowls with soup that had congealed.
Yeah, and I remember the spoon was sticking straight up.
Like they just got up and ran out.
Just left. That's it. We're done. And I said, "This is it. We're gonna be terrific." And my partner Jerry Patterson, God love him, and Gord Badger said, "Well, we're not getting in this." And I said, "Well, this is it." And I knew it. I thought it'd be great. So anyhow. I had a partner, and should I name Rick Scully?
Yep.
Yeah, and Rick put up the money, and he was the guy that took the chance. My name and everything, but he put up the money. So we were so successful. I mean, it was unbelievable. If you wanted to go to the front door, you couldn't go through the place. You had to go around the outside. They were lined up the outside. I think it went for about 6 years. I'm going to hurry this through. So anyhow, one time, Rick came to me and said, "No, I'm not knocking Rick. I mean, Rick, he's the guy that made it go." And so he says, "We're going to change the name." I said, "Oh, going to change the name. We're pretty successful. We're going to change it. We're more food, more of a restaurant."
Yeah, because we were kind of known as we were a dance bar, but a sports dance bar because we had all the TVs and you could watch all the games and everything.
Yeah, it was just jammed. Remember the time we had Team Sweden in there, and
yeah, you were there working that one night, Cindy. It was I forget what it would have been the year that the what do you call it, the Canada Cup was on in Hamilton, and on a Friday night, which we were jammed anyway, there was Team Sweden, Team Canada was in, some of the USA guys, and then a bunch of the Buffalo Bills. Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills came up from Buffalo. And they were in there. So a normal guy had no chance in there that night because there was all these good-looking millionaire athletes walking around.
I was bartending the Jim Kellys at the end. Ray Bork's at there and everything.
Yeah, Ray Bork was there.
Yeah.
Didn't you say Team Sweden said, "Look"?
Well, one night were you working that night?
Yep.
The one night, and it was like a Wednesday night, and it wasn't very busy, and they were sitting there. And there was nothing on TV, so they said, "Don't you have those hockey fight tapes?" And that back then, hockey fight tapes were the big thing, right? Because there was no TV.
Well, they are.
So we threw them on, and they watched the tape, and then they stopped. They just said, "Look, let's just order the beer just bring the beer by the case, right?"
Yeah, bring us a case out and put it down. We tired of ordering one at a time, and so anyhow, it was a great sports bar, and what a dance bar it was too. Holy smokes! I often thought that floor would collapse. I think the floor did collapse at one time, didn't it, Tim?
Yeah, the building in Walnut and Maine was really old, and it used to be like a dance, like an old like live music, and they said BB King played there. A lot of blues guys used to come up, and they said when BB King was playing that the floor cracked. And if you went in the basement, there's this huge beam that runs along the whole building to keep the floor from collapsing.
And remember the speakers we had? They were on chains.
Yeah,
make your heart.
That's why I'm going deaf.
Yeah, me too. Anyhow, he came to me, and we were noted for food. We had pretty good food too. Yeah. What we have? What we had escargot. We got rid of all that stuff. So, Cindy, you were a bartender there. How did you do?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was our original bar, and it had a great combination of, we were like a dance bar Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. It was packed, line up around the bar to get in. We had a very strict dress code. We had beautiful women coming in. And,
the guys had to wear a collar, right?
Guys had to wear a collar, very, very strict. And then on the other nights, we were a sports bar. So we were very well managed in that we did the combination of...
Rick and Kim Wright, I think, did a good job.
Yeah, in managing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
You made a lot of money there.
I made a lot of money. We had a stand-up bar. We had 4 bartenders going. It was a huge, huge stand-up bar. We made about 150.
I have to jump into, and for 3 years I tried to get just a beer bar, and they said, no, we'll never have a beer bar. The wine. I said, no, I know beer guys that drink beer because I'm a beer drinker, and I said, let's we'll get 2 great big aluminum, tubs, yeah, and we'll put all ice. And the guys at Ching Bing, no, and I'll get a good-looking girl in the back, and finally they did it. The beer went out there, you couldn't believe. Anyhow, we have.
Well, what happened was we were, as the story goes, there was Don Cherry's Grapevine, and they said, we want to get away from the sports. We want to be more restaurants, so we're going to call it Don Cherry Sports Grill.
I said, wait a minute. Like, I'm a little confused here. We want more people to think it's a restaurant, and we don't want them to think it's a sports grill, yet we're naming it Sports Grill, and it was a restaurant. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be one of our sponsors.
Yeah, and we want to talk about Tim Turner. I really like that name, Tim Turner in Parry Sound, and we must talk about Parry Sound.
Yeah, he's the owner of the Parry Sound Don Cherry's.
Tuesday's Wings Night. But we want to talk about the one in Sydney, Nova Scotia. As a girl runs it, Tara Colbert. And Wig Night is Tuesday and Wednesday. It seems Tuesday and Wednesday is the night. And Sydney, you like a woman running the restaurant, eh?
Well, I think they're more detailed orientated. They know how to hire the staff. They know how to be organized.
They're cleaner.
They're very into cleaning. I mean, I manage the restaurants, and I enjoyed it.
You did too, eh?
Yeah.
You took over for Cindy because Cindy had Dell, who's running the sound right now.
Yeah, the full circle.
It was the Queensway bar, and that was supposed to be my bar. I was going to run it, and I think the night before we signed the papers, I found out that I was going to have Dell, and that was the end of that. So that's a little bit of history. We still bought it, and Tim stepped in, and we ran it again. Very, very successful bar at Queensway and Kipling. And eventually, the secret of owning a restaurant is build them up really well that they're making money and then sell them.
Well,
yeah, we got out a little bit late.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I'm glad you're telling me all this. So anyhow, we got Tara in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and I said, Tim, give me some guys, hockey players from Nova Scotia.
Well, everybody, the first guy you think of is Sidney Crosby, and then you think, of McKinnon, but then you go, well, who else? And after that, but
holy smokes! And can I want to read some of the names, okay?
These are players from Nova Scotia.
All right. Al McInnes, Hall of Fame guy, can shoot a puck. He had 100 miles an hour with a wooden stick.
At the All-Star game.
All-Star game, and they're trying to, I think one guy beat him. Sidney Crosby, Bobby Smith, Glenn Murray, Brad Marchand, the guy that you'd put on the ice if you were down 1 goal. He'd always tie it up with Boston. Nathan McKinnon, I mean, he was the second to me. I mean, did they had a close up of him after he got beat out? What happened? Like him and Kadri.
Well, if McDavid didn't win, to me, I thought McDavid should have won the Hart. But if it wasn't for him, I think that McKinnon should have won.
Yeah, McKinnon. Mike McPhee, Lowell McDonald. I remember Lowell McDonald played. Doug Sullivan, Parker McDonald played with Parker, and he served his time in Springfield Indians, and he went to New York Rangers. Flash Hollett, I'd like to talk about Flash. He was the guy that got 19 goals, and it took Bobby Orr 20 years. 20 years later, Bobby he had that record, and then he went. Bobby Orr broke it. And I must talk about him. Alex Killorn, Tony Curry, Andrew McDonald, John Sims, Norm Ferguson, Colin White, good defenseman Colin White. I think he was a defenseman, wasn't he? Wasn't he the guy that played with Stevens?
Yes, I think he did. Yeah. He was the guy that used to steer the guys into the center.
Well, he'd steer the guys like we must talk about Lindros the time. Like he let on. He was being beat from on the left hand side, so the guy would cut into center ice, and Stevens would be coming the other way. Boy, I'll tell you, Bob Hess, Peter Marsh, Paul Boutelier, Al McNeil. Al McNeil's the only guy that ever got fired after winning the Stanley Cup.
Man, you coached against him in the American League?
I coached it. Well, he was sent down to the American League. He won the Stanley Cup. He was sent down to the American Hockey League because the Pocket the Rocket said he was the worst coach, and I don't. He was just mad because he was benched. He won the Stanley Cup. Now get this. He won the Stanley Cup, and he was in the American Hockey League.
The next year.
And he used to play with Bobby Bond. They were the original Bruce brothers. Both could hit. James Shepard could score 40 goals. Paul Landry, Eric Bolton, Eric Johnson, Bill Riley, Mel Davis, John McKinnon, Logan Shaw, Craig McDonald, John Hanna. I could tell you a story. Sometimes I'll tell you the story. He was coach in Jacksonville and Winswick. It's a funny story. Remind me to tell the story. It's a great story. Ryan Graves. Well, Ryan Graves was the best plus in the National Hockey League, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was best plus minus this year with plus 40.
Plus 40. Imagine that. Bobby Orr was what, 120? I think
128.
128. Really ridiculous. Anyhow, Ron Graves, when you're plus 40, boy, and the rest you did good. Cam Russell, Tom McCarthy, Derek Wassner, and I'm reading all these here.
Is that the guy, Tom McCarthy?
I think that's the Tom. That was the Tom McCarthy who played for Minnesota. I think he was number one draft. The other guy was Black Tom. We used to call him Black. He was he had dark black curly hair, and he was from Toronto. When he was on the ice, no kidding. When he was on the ice, Daryl go grapes, and if I didn't notice on the ice, and he'd make his eyes go this way, and you'd see Tom McCarthy. Boy, nobody fool with this guy. Was he a tough? And he was a big, tall guy. He was about 6'2", could put a puck in, but he must have done something that because when he was at the Toronto Maple Leafs camp, they never even give him a shot. Never give him, and he'd terrify you. And he could score 50 goals and terrify you, and he never got a shot. Wally Wilson, Stan Jackson, Wayne Maxter. Wayne Maxter coached junior. He was a good junior coach. Dave Amadio. Guess Dave and poor Dave Amadio. Dave Amadio got traded from Sudbury, and I went to Sudbury. I remember coming home telling Rose, we're going to Sudbury, and she's from Hershey. Well, where is that? I said, well, it's up in northern Canada. Does it get cold there? It gets cold. And so Dave Amadio, Gwen, he was a big guy, boy. He was about 6'3". He was a big guy. He was a good defenseman. He could play National Hockey League now. And they were kind of cruel, the fans in Springfield, and they are, hey, you traded cherry for a lemon. I thought that was pretty good. And Kevin Morrison played for me. I must tell about him and his fight with Bob Kelly, and also must tell a story about him and Lanny McDonald.
Bit of drinking contest.
And Doug McLean and Wendell Young. Remember, he was a goaltender.
Yep.
Anyhow, I asked for, I thought there'd be a few guys from Nova Scotia. But McKinnon, two best spots. After McDavid, I would have to say McKinnon and Crosby. Two of the best.
Yeah,
hockey
and
players.
Marchand. I mean, how would you like having that line?
Boy, nice. Boy, if they ever made a team from Nova Scotia, holy smokes. Anyhow, Tara, we wish you the best of luck. And I know it's a tough time right now. And I know we're really pumping the restaurants. I know they're having a tough time. Everybody's having a tough time, but the restaurants especially.
So, Dad, what'd you think of the signings of the free agents? And, of course, I have to ask you about the Max's trade. What do you think of that trade?
He goes to Columbus. He'll be the number one guy. He'll be the most popular guy. Remember, he did the very first exhibition game. Why the Montreal fans liked him is I think he hit the guy from Florida.
Ekblad.
Ekblad cut his nose and blood all over the place, and he was okay by then. But he did pretty good. I don't think he was. What happened in Montreal? He wasn't. I don't know. He seemed to be unhappy at the thing. He seemed to be.
I just think it's such a pressure cooker in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
You get a couple. You're not. They expected big things from him, and he kind of got off to a bad start, and the fans get on him, and they and you could tell though he was in the playoffs, like he wasn't even playing on the power play.
No, and here's a guy that should be on the power play because he can put the puck in the net. And
so you think he'll get along with my favorite coach in the NHL?
Why is he your favorite?
Well, because we all know
John Tortorella.
Yes. Well, other than that he's good looking, I would say that he owns a foundation that rescues dogs, and his specialty, of course, is pit bulls. So he was.
Well, he has a son, doesn't he?
He has
the
a son
SEALs.
overseas.
Son was a Marine.
Yep. But of course, that's why, of course, he's close to my heart.
I have to tell you a story. This was when Brian Burke was the general manager of Toronto. That I was asked.
Oh, do you mean Berkey?
No, yeah, Berkey.
You mean Berkey?
I don't understand guys calling him Berkey. I would never call a guy a nickname unless the guy told me to.
Like on the draft.
Anyhow, Brian Burke was the GM for Toronto, and I got asked would I introduce the troops that just back from Afghanistan. I think there was 300 of them there. So naturally, I said yeah. So I go out and here they great heroes and everything like that, and I said, come on, stand up and everybody give them a cheer. Well, everybody give them a standing ovation, and I look down and there's John Tortorella. You say that it was Columbus.
Columbus, yeah.
I thought it was Rangers, but anyhow, it doesn't matter. He's got his whole team up, and they're giving a standing ovation. They're clapping, they're banging, and I look over at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Ron Wilson is the coach, and he's not paying any attention. He doesn't like me. Reason it was because he didn't like me. Can you imagine not liking me?
Well, you called him Little Napoleon.
Is that what I call him?
Yeah. So I think that started it off.
So anyhow, he did not like
You
me.
antagonize. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, he didn't like me. So, and his players were picking their nose, and here's John Tortorella, and I look at the Leafs, and you know what? I have to tell. I'm confessing here on my show because nobody can hurt me anymore. They can't fire me anymore. Can't fire me off this, can you, Tim? Anyhow, you know who showed me that they weren't clapping was Ron McLean, and I didn't even know. I wouldn't look at them, so I'm looking at the troops. So I got on and I just ripped Wilson to death on that. That's when it started the whole thing. And then Brian Burke, GM, stuck up for his coach, I guess, and that's when he disliked me. Well, we're friends now. Brian Burke and I are friends. But anyhow,
so Ron got you in trouble.
I could tell you a lot of things. I didn't notice. He says that
in trouble or set you up.
No, I didn't get me in trouble. He knew I was mad.
Yeah,
I'm a good coach's corner anyhow.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It had a lot of reaction.
God, I tell you now, things I used to do, and you know what gets me? The thing I got fired for is like and I should have been. If they were going to fire me for that, God, the things I said before.
Maybe it just built up.
Hey?
Maybe it just built up over the years.
No, I don't know. I thought it was doing. Anyhow, the free agency. Now, how do we?
We're just talking about free agency. Who do you think did the best? What team?
I can't believe Travis Green, the coach of Vancouver Canucks, should get on his knees. And Jim Benning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is a GM. to think that he would pick up Holtby. He lost Markstrom. Markstrom went to Calgary. That was a great pickup for. That's all he needed in Calgary. Look out for Calgary this year because they've got a good goaltender. He really is a dandy. And I thought, the Demko for Vancouver. Well, he's a rising star. He had the one good year. So it goes out, and Jim Benning gets Holtby from Washington. Holy smokes. And pays him big dough as a backup. I guess he's looking forward to in Seattle, the expansion. But two good goalies like that, you could take a dart board and pick which one. Demko is coming. He's going to be a dandy. Well, he had the one good year. And then...
So do you think they have the best goaltending tandem? And
there's no doubt in my mind the two best goaltenders playing on any club is Vancouver. And Benning played the game. He knows if you don't have... If you have your number one goaltender, plays 50 games. Now, the question is, who's going to be number one? Now, the one guy, if you don't mind me saying, the one guy won the Stanley Cup, great goaltender, and the other guy's a rising guy. He should learn from Holtby, and I think that they'll lose one when the expansion comes. But can you imagine Travis Green? I mean, you'd have to really wonder. And the only guy I know that had two great goaltenders was me.
So
Gilly and
can
Cheevers.
I ask you a question then? Do you think Gilly Gilbert would have been a number one goalie on another team if he wasn't had Cheevers?
He won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And,
so there's got to be a bit of resentment when you could be.
No, there wasn't a bit of resentment. He disliked me intensely.
Well, he had good reason, though. I mean,
he had
we all
good
know
reason.
what you did to him in the sense when you were sort
Well,
of.
wait a minute. Let's just, in defense of me.
Because I like.
The year before I had him, and we played Chicago, and it was deadly 2 out of 3, I think, or 3 out of 5. Was it
2 out of 3?
2 out of 3. It was
deadly.
over before you blinked.
Yeah, and just brutal. I mean, we were a first-place club, and we're playing the worst team in the world. We played Chicago, and Tony Esposito, we hammered him 8-3 or something like that. And they had in the paper, Tony Esposito finished, done, can't play anymore. Oh, as soon as I saw that, I knew we were in trouble. And then you couldn't get a P by him. And Gilly, the last game of the season in Boston, we outshoot him 58-18 or 12, and we lose. And they see him after the game, and they said, Gilly, you're outshot. Yes, but out of that 16 shots, there were a lot of good shots. How many do you think was out of the 53? So anyhow, I did not like it. And we're getting off in a tangent here. But and you told me, Tim, that I did not know this, and I did not know it when he played, that he set a record and won 17 straight games.
Right. He still holds the record. Hard to believe. The year, I forget what year, but it was the year he was coaching, 77, 78, I think it was. 17 straight starts he won. And that's not like today, if you win in overtime, you consider a win. That was
straight wins.
17. And no goalie's beaten that record yet.
And let me just tell you, when I thought we were going to lose, and all goaltenders know they're going to lose, or if
the team was,
I would put him in. They were tough wins. They weren't like.
So you could see his point. If you won 5 straight and you were going to possibly lose the 6th game, you would give Jerry a rest, and then you would throw it in Gilly.
Or if we played 3 games in 4 nights.
Or if you were in Vegas and you knew the guys were out the night before.
No, we weren't in Vegas.
Or you were in L.A. It was L.A. and all that. Plus, you didn't like his mask.
No, we never, Cindy.
Yes.
We never went out the night before.
Oh.
And I made sure.
Yes.
I only caught one guy the night before, and Bobby Schmatz. And I'll tell you about him someday. We had a long time.
You didn't like his mask either, did you?
Who?
You didn't like
it. Didn't matter. Didn't matter to me. I just didn't like. I like Jerry Cheevers, who's our number one goaltender. And if I disliked Gilly so much, why did I put him in the most important? And he almost won the Stanley Cup for us.
I remember watching you guys scrimmage, and you were kind of I don't know, you usually didn't scrimmage with the guys, but somehow you were scrimmaging with them and you went into the corner and Jilly tripped you and you went head first.
No, you're right. We were doing breakaways, penalty shots.
Oh.
And I went to deke him and he tripped me and I went head first to the boards and everything went silent because it looked like I really hurt myself. I remember I had my hair, I had a comb over here, because I didn't have much hair. And it all flopped over and the guys thought I was really hurt.
Well, he really did trip you. Like, it wasn't an accident.
No, he tripped me on purpose, and I went head first to the boards. I said, okay, everybody up. Let's, John Rattel and all the safe shooters. I said, you come down and shoot at Cheever, and I'd have the wackos like Bobby Schmatz and guys like that. Go down and shoot at Jilly.
All you heard was pucks off the glass.
Bing, ding, and it's a funny thing that we're talking about Jilly Gilbert. 17 straight wins. That's unbelievable. Yeah. But he disliked the organization. He disliked me so much. He could break goal sticks. He knew how to break them. And he knew I didn't like deflecting the pucks up. And the girls used to clean the Boston.
I was going to ask you that if we could say that the way he used to steer the puck up.
He used to steer the puck. We'd take a shot, and he could steer the pucks up. And so then.
He'd use the cleaning ladies as
I don't know.
He'd scare them. He wouldn't try to hit them. He'd just scare them.
Try to hit them. He'd just scare the pucks, and he knew they were up too high, but they'd hear bing, bing. So I said, look, I know what you're doing. Now you're putting the pucks up. Just quit doing that. So you know what he did? I tell you, he was and a good-looking guy. Whoa, he looked like a movie star. And he won the Stanley Cup before, and here I have got him second big. So no wonder he didn't like me. So he could break sticks. He knew how to break sticks. And he used to break sticks. Every practice, he'd break about 3 or 4 goal sticks, And Harry used to look at the bill. It didn't matter to me. Thought he was hurting me. Didn't matter to me. But Jilly Gilbert, I had the 2 best goaltenders in the league. And then I got Ron Graham from the WHA, was the best goaltender. And unbelievable. I had the 3. And one game... cocky. Talk about being cocky. I played them, and I played one goalie one period, one goalie the second period, and the third goalie.
Yeah, he dressed 3 goalies.
And boy, did they hate that. Did Jerry Cheevers hate that?
Well, your philosophy is all you got to do is have one good period.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
but the funny thing was they traded Ron Graham to L.A. and
for who?
And they got Ray Bourque.
They traded. Now, believe not, Harry. I did it again. He traded Ron Graham, who was good goalie, for the number 1 draft chip, and it was Ray Bourque. Imagine Ray Bourque, Hall of Famer, and
yeah. Well, he was the face of Boston for how many years?
Oh,
10,
he was
12 years.
fantastic. So anyhow, Travis Green's got 2 beauties there. He's going to have to be a little careful. Don't tick one off. And I have Demko, and he's a young guy coming up. He should learn from Holtby. So he's the number 1 guy. That's what I would take like that. And the free agency, it's you can see they're not.
Yeah, there's only a few guys signed for big dough. Everybody else was just a year.
Yeah, and Krug, Peter Angelo should be signed pretty soon. But St. Louis saw that they weren't going to sign Peter Angelo. He wants a $9 million, which is worth it.
So what do you think of the Leafs? They said they got to get tougher?
Well, the Leafs, they got to get tougher. And the Bosigan, they just got him.
Yeah, Bogosian. Yep.
Yeah, and he played for the OHL. He played for Peterborough.
Yeah, won Stanley Cup last year with Tampa.
And Broda, TJ Brody, yep. He's from Chatham.
Yeah.
He's from Ontario. And... then we have Simmons, who I've always liked. You tell a story. Remember, you used to talk about. Yeah,
we saw him play. He played for the Junior Canadians, and he was. For the one thing I'll say about him, I remember watching him when I first saw him play, and you and I were watching. He was a horrible skater. He couldn't skate, and by the end of the year he was pretty good. He really worked. He really worked on his skating. But I remember you watching him saying, man, I just didn't want to go in the corner with him because he was all elbows and knees and just like a whirling dervish when he went into the corner. And he was kind of big back then too.
Oh, he was big. He was,
but he was gangly, eh? So he was all elbows.
Well, he still is.
All elbows and arms and stuff. And I remember you saying, of all the guys in the GTHL, I don't want to go in the corner with him. So
no, he reminded me of Gordy Labassi. I used to play with used to play against him, and I don't know why he didn't like me or something. And boy, you go in the corner with him, you'd always get hurt. He'd elbow you, and he was a terrific fighter. Gordy Labassi, when I think of him, and not making the National Hockey League, I think he tried a couple of times. But I think Edmonton pretty good. And Turris, I think Turris has been sort of in a hiatus, as they say. He did pretty good in Ottawa when he was there. He got 2 years. Maybe they'll put somebody out with McDavid. And
you always said, though, Dad, that McDavid is the kind of guy that scores goals by himself.
Yeah.
Like he's not a guy that needs to be set up.
It'd be nice if he had a winger.
Yeah. I was saying he should have a guy like Donnie Marcotte, though. Like, just work,
and get 20 goals.
And get 20 goals, but have a guy back checking on him.
Yeah,
because
Donnie Marcotte played for me in Boston. He used to check Lafleur. I mean,
he still got 20 goals.
And he still got 20 goals. And Lafleur was, of all the guys I've seen, and I've been in hockey a long time, the guy I like to see the best outside of Bobby Orr, naturally, was Guy Lafleur.
Yeah.
Boy, he used to.
Well, we want to wish him all the best. He's having a little problem right now, and we'll hope he gets out soon. And
you know what I used to see about him when I think about him, when he used to have long hair, and hair be flowing out the back, and he could really motor, and they used to have silk sweaters, and he used to flutter all the time, and he was terrific. And I hope McDavid, they get a swinger for him. And Montreal, Josh Donaldson. Donaldson. I keep thinking of him. Josh Anderson, 7 years, and big in size, and I think he'll be terrific there. He's a mean guy, and I think they did. But of all the teams that I think, and Winnipeg didn't do much. They got a couple of guys, but I didn't. I just couldn't believe Holtby went to Vancouver. I thought that was terrific.
Well, you think then they got 2 good goalies, they got a pretty good defense,
and a good young team,
yeah,
and a good coach. And so, of all the teams, I think that has a good shot at the Stanley Cup. I think it's Vancouver. Tim, we have another sponsor who I'm really interested in. Tell us about him.
Spreads.ca. It's a First Nations-owned online casino and sportsbook, and it's tailored to Canadians, which means when you put your deposit down, it's Canadian dollars because all the other guys are U.S. dollars. So sign up now and enter the promo code GRAPES, and they'll match your deposit 100% up to $500. Terms and conditions apply. So that means if you put $50 in, they'll match the $50. You get 15 spins on their kind of like a Don Cherry slot machine, and if you can win up to $1 million. And with your first sports bet, you get $25. And I didn't do very well. I bet against the Astros. Now they're in the pennant race, and then I bet the Yankees.
I hope they win.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Eh?
Well, they've got a chip on their shoulder, and you know why? Because they were the team that cheated, and the players took all the
abuse and everything. Well, they're playing Tampa, and they beat Tampa last year, so that'll be a good game. Then I bet Tom Brady was going to win, and the Bears beat them by a point. But the one thing I gotta say, I just shook my head that Tom Brady, the last play of the game, it was 4th down. Tom Brady thought it was 3rd down. He threw the ball, and game was over. And he was looking, saying, "Well, I think it's 3rd down." He got confused.
Well, I listen to TV with the sound down. I'm thinking, God, I thought that was it. No, I didn't say, I just shook my head.
Well, there were so many penalties on that team, and every time the ball was snapped, Tom Brady was running for his life.
It's funny how the reporters, they're either at your throat or your feet. Yeah. And the guy, what was the guy the guy come on, Travis, what was his name?
Troy Aikman the next day really gave him in the paper saying, "Oh, I'm worried about Tom," one of those ones. But the thing that really disappointed me was, I don't even know the Tampa Bay Buccaneer coach. And he came on and they asked him about it, and he goes, "Well, Tom must have been confused, but we all knew it was 4th down."
Yeah, what he did was he bailed. Now, I'm not saying I'm a player's coach, but I was a player's coach. I would have said, there's a confusion. We were a little, some bail them out a little. I mean,
but he just threw him right under the bus.
Yeah, and you know what, Brady, he won't say anything. He'll say, but he'll remember that. And if I, as a player, I always remembered coaches that stuck up for the when I played. I always remembered coaches that stuck up for the players. But anyhow, sticking up for players.
So, what about the draft, Dad? And this was the big thing on, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday was the draft.
Okay. Now, everybody knows, and listen to this here, that if to make the Stanley Cup Finals, you have to be tough. I mean, I don't care, Dallas, and every time Tampa picked up the puck, their defenseman picked up the puck, if they were 6 feet, bang. And you're going to say, why would they hit a guy after he passes the puck? Because the next time he gets the puck, he'd get whacked. So anyhow, they said for 2 days I read, they're going to be tougher. They're going to get tougher. Harder to play against. That was it. And hard to play against. Hard to play against. That's all I heard was the hard to play against. So who did they, and they picked up Simmons, 1.5. I must talk about him. And they picked up Brody. And they signed Spezza. Yep, the fighter on the club, Spezza.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. And anyhow, you have to be tough. You have to be tough. Everybody knows that Tampa picked up. They picked up all those. They picked up Coleman, who I think he led the league in hits. Maroon, Beausegan, Toronto picked him up.
Yeah, Bogosian.
Oh, something like that. And Goodrow, who led the league, was up there and hitting too. So anyhow, everybody knows you have to be tough. And to make the regular season, I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything. So let's just see who they drafted to be tougher, okay? Now, you have to figure that Dubas is from Ontario, or he's with the Sioux. And he's with the Ontario Hockey League, right?
Right.
So, oh boy.
He grew up in the Ontario Hockey League.
He grew up and he learned everything. And as we know, the best hockey players in the world, the draft. How about the draft this year? What was it? 19 out of
19 first rounders were Canadian.
19 first rounders, and not a word said on television. Well, it's about. The comment was it was a rebound year. And we had 19 first rounders. Now, rest assured, if it had been 19 Americans or 19 Germans, remember what was this? The Germans that were picked. Germans are coming. The Germans are coming. There's three. They got twice. Anyhow, see in Canada or on television, you can't pump Canada too much because somehow or other, if you pump Canada too much, it means that you're putting down the other country, and you can't put down the other country. You can't say buy a poppy because it's sort of people that don't buy a poppy. Anyhow, the Dubas is from the OHL. He got a start in the Sioux, and let's just go over who he drafted, okay? Now, remember what I said, that you have to be big and tough. Boston the year before, am I right?
Boston, St. Louis the year before.
Yes, Boston had the most fights. Oh, my goodness, don't much about fighting. And and Washington had Tom Wilson running around, straighten everybody out. That was 2 years ago. You have to be tough to be in the finals. Everybody knows that. So let's just say, and the Leafs said, we got to get harder to play against. So they take a Russian, 5'11", about 160 pounds. Then the second, they take a 5'9" guy from Finland. He's tougher. Then they take another guy from Finland. I don't know, he's about 160 pounds. Then they take a Russian about 150 pounds. One guy, believe it or not, one guy weighs 140 pounds. Then they take another Russian. Then they take another guy from Finland. Then they take a guy from Finland. And they take a Canadian, 233rd. He's, just a flyer. I'm not going to name the guys because they're hard to be named. But imagine that the first, what is it?
19 out of in the first round, 19 Canadians.
Are Canadians. Somebody who knows what's going on. And there's a team that says it's got to be tougher to play against, and they take little Europeans.
You brought up the good point. Like, what does their Canadian and American scouts think that? Like, do they have any guys that scout in the U.S. and Canada?
Well, you're out in the rinks all the time. Do you see any Toronto Maple Leaf?
Never see
scouts?
anybody.
Well, we're minor midgets.
Minor midgets, so it doesn't make any difference. But how do the Canadian scouts feel? I mean, how do the Canadian scouts feel around here? How do the Canadian and the American scout? I mean, they don't draft any American. Well, they draft Americans. They won that kid. He played in the OHL. Robinson, I think his name is.
Right. He played in the thing. But the funny thing was, Cindy, I was watching the draft, and the Sportsnet did a good job where they kind of knew the guys who were going in the first round. So they went to their moms and said, "Can you send us some pictures of the kids growing up?" And how many of the kids had Travers, Toronto Maple Leaf pajamas or Toronto Maple Leaf sweaters?
Everybody.
And, you look and you go, they're the Leafs, picking some guy that,
Yeah, I watched Finland. I watched a little bit. I liked when they had the camera with at the homes of the people.
Yeah, that was good.
But
yeah, you're right. It just makes you wonder. We're talking about Toronto right now and Canada's team, as they say, and they draft all Europeans. But here's the funny thing. Is that Brian Burke, and I keep bringing in Brian Burke, that when he was the general manager of Toronto, when Stahl would come in, one of the Stahls would always get the overtime goal, and they'd always play good. And he said, and he's an American, he said, the kids from Ontario always play better, and the same thing is like from Vancouver. If you get a kid from BC, he's going to play better because his family's there. If you get a kid from Alberta, he's going to play better because his family is there. And
he grows up there and stuff like that. I know people are going to say, well, they got Wayne Simmons and they got Bogosian and they got those guys, but
Brody.
My thing is, are they going to play Wayne Simmons? Because they didn't play Clifford and they didn't play Clarkson. So
Clarkson. There's a guy that could have been great. When he came here, he got a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. But he got off on the wrong foot. He didn't put him on the power play. And we're getting off on a tangent here. But you're right. They have to play this guy. Like Clifford last year. Clifford, when he was remember, he was my favorite player. Never played. If you don't play these guys over 10 minutes and that are tough, there's no sense in even having them because you can't have a guy sit on the bench. They don't anymore. Go out there like a mad dog, and he knows he has to fight. He has pressure on him. The guy has got to play, and they've got these guys. We've got guys like Simmons and that now, and I hope that he plays like he did a couple of years ago when he first come up because if they've got a dandy in him.
Well, Dad, I think we're running a little bit late, so what we'll do is next week we're going to talk about all the picks that we've seen when the minor midgets, and we'll go over the draft next week, and we'll talk about, as you said, the greatest defenseman hardly anybody's ever heard of.
Yeah, I want to talk about Flash Holler from Nova Scotia, and an awful lot of hockey players come from Nova Scotia. Okay, Tim, and we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for.